The moon is now in Pisces, making it the full moon. But before this event, the moon was in Aquarius, and it was a very interesting alignment because the moon was conjuncting Pluto, in conjuncting the sun, and in conjuncting Jupiter as well. So there was big influences and big energies, and for sure we're carrying them right now into the full moon in Pisces. But more important, there were very specific energies, and now it's a great time to reflect on them because with full moon in Pisces, we can be more reactive and more aware of 12 type circumstances like spirituality and the unseen, the non-physical realm that we can still perceive it, but especially with moon or sun or Mercury in Pisces or Sagittarius, for an example, it's way easier for us to be aware of it and even communicate it. Let's look at the events that astrological alignment caused around you in your spiritual neighborhood. The fact that the moon in Aquarius was conjuncting Pluto means that your internal world, feelings, emotions, attractions, reactions, and responses most likely were under transformation processes. Power wars and deep travels that were being perceived by you in a fixed, consistent, or stubborn way about thinking, communicating, analyzing, and socializing in unique, individual, realistic, and creative ways. Also, Moon in Aquarius was in conjuncting the Sun in Virgo and Jupiter in Cancer. That means that you might have misunderstood yours and others' realistic, practical, and mutable ways to act, express, and see your own unique, logical, and fixed feelings. Also, the conjunction of Jupiter means that you might have misunderstood how you and the world were creating new emotional, spiritual, and deep ways to travel to obtain wisdom and knowledge and to obtain spiritual and new emotional spaces of comfort and purpose. So, in general, it means that a lot of changes and new perspectives in how to make your internal spaces more consistent, more stubborn, more logical, more unique, and more social because the transformation brought by Pluto and the misunderstandings brought by the Sun in Virgo and Jupiter in Cancer. Although those misunderstandings might have brought some moments of shame, silliness, unpredictability, and vulnerability, there were opportunities to expand and organize those more logical, unique, and social feelings and emotions. The main point is now to look back at when the moon was in Aquarius 3, 4 days ago, and then look at the present moment and realize how you could have made your internal world stronger and more logical while balancing it with the mutable practicality of the sun in Virgo and the innovative spiritual expansions of Jupiter in Cancer. This can lead now in the present moment with full moon in Pisces to deep moments of reflections, self-doubt, and not understanding or misunderstanding certain aspects of the world and of your own social interactions. But in the end of the day, it can also lead you to upgrading your routines and patterns as well as upgrading your new ways to expand emotionally and spiritually with strong humanitarian and progressive feelings and emotions. Also, the transformations brought by the conjunction of the moon and Pluto in Aquarius can take some time to unfold, to be realized by you and others around you. So maybe you are already aware and others around you are not, or maybe others around you are already aware and you are not. So go with patience, practicality, faith, and inspiration into this full moon right now, while focusing on having stable and progressive feelings, emotions, reactions, and responses. Now let's focus on Pluto was conjuncting the moon in Aquarius because I think that's really, really relevant. Because Pluto, especially being very early degrees in Aquarius, means that we are developing and creating, bringing forward a new world. And that new world is about unique mentalities, fixed, consistent, or stubborn ways to think, communicate, analyze, and socialize in unique ways in realistic ways about structure, uniqueness, individuality, and how organizations and infrastructures can support people and ideas that can harbor or bring progress, balance, and fairness. But at the same time, there could be a darker aspect, and I think a lot of people are seeing that darker aspect first because we are coming out of Pluto in Capricorn, which is a bit more short minded, a bit more short sighted, and it's the darker, quote unquote, and the internal side of Aquarius because it's the internal feminine side of Saturn, while Aquarius is the masculine external side of Saturn. So the visions can be a bit more worried, short sighted, or darker in general because of that transition. And that comes in the form of people thinking AI will take over everything. That comes in the form of people thinking that the government will, or the bad examples of government will control everything and people will lose their freedom, people will lose their individuality. And that's just not true. It's almost impossible for that to happen because of the spiritual nature to always look for uniqueness and individuality. And people must not forget about new waves, new changes, even in those positions of leadership where there was a lot of corruption and not caring for other people, not caring for human rights and the rights to have a good experience and expand yourself. And most likely, when we look at these quote unquote boomers and around those ages, politicians and rich people that hoard everything and they can cut wages of their companies just to accumulate 10% over the year, those things are going to change as well because the new wave, especially being brought by Saturn in Aries and Pluto in Aquarius, the new shareholders or the new leaders, not only will they be new as entirely new, but also if they are in the family like nephews and whatnot, they'll have a different perspective as well. They'll be a bit more humanitarian, they'll be a bit more progressive while still being realistic and thinking about profit. So that can also be now applied to your internal realm, or was being applied to your internal realm when the moon was in Aquarius. So you can be aware, or you could have been aware, attract, react, and respond about new ways to go through transformation or come out of transformation and have a more unique, strong, logical, and socially adept, socially ready to go outside and be associated and associate with others feelings and emotions. And this is really important because I think it's what has been lacking a little bit in society in general, which is stronger morals, stronger values, values of progressiveness, of progressive values, values of humanitarianism. But the thing is, there was already a lot of cases where there was too much humanitarianism, too much trying to help somebody that couldn't help themselves. And with Moon in Aquarius, I'll and then Pluto in Aquarius, the new world might seem a bit cold, or might seem certain funds are not going to certain populations that need them, and it might look cold, but at the same time, it will change from just giving money and it will become giving lessons, giving structure, giving purpose, organization. Because, for example, the Africa situation is a bit like that, because especially the American government sent trillions of dollars to Africa, and they never got, or majority never got back on their feet because you can just throw money at the situation. And Pluto in Aquarius, very different from Pluto in Capricorn, has that broader perspective, that more humanitarian but at the same time intelligent perspective. And now, especially governments and big organizations will realize and put into practicality the good old saying of you give man fish and he will never be able to feed himself, teach him how to fish, and he'll be able to provide for himself and the village for the rest of his life. And Moon in Aquarius, even though you might not have those things right now, even though you might not have that capability to fish on your own, it's all about creating that confidence, creating that sturdy mind, that mental fortress without losing the humanitarian aspects, without losing the care for the world and the care for progress, while being able to maintain limits and boundaries, and while being able to maintain a sense of flexibility and connection. That's why Aquarius can be really weird because it's about limits and boundaries, but it's about connection. It's about being progressive and calculated, but also about being humanitarian and progressive when it's about teaching others and give support to others, right? So all of that was being brought to the world, especially on a place closer to our heart when the moon was conjuncting Pluto. And now that we are in the full moon in Pisces, we can totally see or feel, and maybe you are aware spiritually, and then slowly but surely it will come to a more logical perspective of yourself, how the expansion, what the potential, what the purpose and the true goal of that humanitarian, progressive but logical and limited and well boundaried transformation can lead into, because Pisces is all about that. It's having faith, believing in something while knowing and trusting the power of the spirit to expand and be creative and integrate things that might look very weak and non-valuable, but the integration brings exponential value. So things that look like they made no sense and they had no value, upon being integrated, upon being utilized and alchemized, can bring more value. And that's what sometimes lacks to Aquarius. It's seeing the opportunities coming together, or two things that don't make sense to be together or to be connected, to then be connected and bring more value. So with Pluto or the moon, when the moon was conjuncting Pluto, maybe there was some opportunity for you to feel a bit more dry and to see the world as a darker place, or to see the world as a place that is not really evolving and there is no parts of the puzzle that can come in to complete a good picture. But that's totally okay. Just don't lose faith. And now that the moon is in Pisces, you can look back and be like, okay, I was a bit less faithful. I wasn't so connected to all possibilities. But the goal now is to make sure that you have visions, imaginations, feelings, and emotions. And if you don't create, right, those visions about a better world, about progression, because we all together create this world with our visions, actions, feelings, emotions, expressions, and attractions. And there is too many people, at least in communication, because a lot of people do not show up on the internet or on your social groups, but a lot of people are being too doomeristic about AI and the future, and it's going to be too corporate, and it's going to be five world wars. Like, it's okay to talk about that. It's not really, even if it's gossip, but that if we can talk about that, if behind closed doors we have those extremely good imaginations, but with progress in mind, with structure in mind, but structure that allows uniqueness and individuality, that allows progress at everybody's rhythm, right? Respecting your rhythm, respecting others' rhythms, and creating situations, organizations, schools, mindsets, ways to obtain stability that can support and bring progress to yourself and others, if and most especially when there is unique minds or unique mentalities to explore and then to create something realistic out of them. And now, with the full moon in Pisces, you can be extremely delusional or extremely creative in looking back at those deep transformations about feeling logical, feeling social, feeling unique, feeling strong, while at the same time caring for the world, caring for yourself, caring for the others around you that care for themselves, that are unique or want to become unique, and that are ready to put on the work to sacrifice the bad things and invest into the good things. And now, let's bring all that into faith, uniqueness, and spirituality as well, and recognizing that the power is within you, but we gotta make it real as well. It's not just about believing, it's about acting. And that's a perfect transition from Moon in Aquarius conjuncting Pluto, feeling the transformation, feeling the conflict, feeling the ability to be more with progress and care, and then full moon in Pisces, expanding on it, creating new feelings, creating new worlds for that to become true. So thank you for watching. Enjoy the full moon. Watch the video about the full moon in Pisces as well. And I wish you the best. Until next time.